Hello, this is Aaron Hall at Joseph and Hall, here for this week's immigration updates. So, like always, we are here Mondays at 12:30 Denver time in English, and it'll be Wednesdays at 12:30 Denver time in Spanish. And today, what I wanted to talk about was self-deportation flyers that are being distributed by the immigration court system and why these are problematic and why nobody should listen to anything in them without first talking to an attorney. So, to help us go through that, I want to take a look at it. And here you can see what the flyer looks like. These are at immigration courts across the country. In some places, they are actually being stacked at the respondents table. That's where the non-citizen sits. And in some places, they're just posted outside in the common area outside the courtroom. But what it says, as you can see at the top, is message to illegal aliens, a warning to self-deport. So again, these are for people who are in immigration court, who have rights that are set out by Congress, rights to apply for relief, rights to contest whether they're deportable at all. And here's a flyer encouraging people to just leave. So as we start to walk through this, let's talk through some of the things that are misleading or not accurate here. So first, what they're saying is to download this app. It's called the CBP Home app. It used to be called the CBP One app. And then register an intention to self-deport. First of all, self-deportation is not really a term that's in the Immigration and Nationality Act. It's not really a thing. A deportation is usually where there's an order of deportation, either an expedited removal, which is typically at or near a port of entry, or an order of removal that's entered by an immigration judge. After the order of removal, when somebody departs the country, you could call that self-deportation if they're doing it on their own, or if they are taken out by immigration authorities, then that would be a deportation. But self-deportation where there is no order of removal is not really a thing. Now, under benefits, it says first, self-deportation is safe. You can leave on your own terms by picking your departure flight. Okay. It says keep money earned in the U.S. if you self-deport as a non-criminal illegal alien. I don't know what they're talking about because there's no provision in immigration law that money earned here in the United States for labor that was actually done be forfeited in any case, whether somebody's deported or they quote unquote self-deport. If you have a final order of removal and you don't leave, they can assess fines, but fines are different than the forfeiture of money. So it's not clear what they're talking about. Next, it says future opportunity for legal immigration. If you self-deport using the CBP Home instead of being deported by ICE. That's very misleading. Why? Because lots of people in this situation who are seeing this flyer, if they leave the country, they will trigger a 10-year bar of inadmissibility for unlawful presence. In addition, these people are by definition in immigration court proceedings. If they just leave, whether they use that app or not, they still have immigration court proceedings going on. So what happens when the next hearing comes along? Well, presumably they would miss it. And presumably DHS would seek what's called an in absentia order of removal, basically an order of deportation from a judge because the person failed to show up for a hearing. And if that happens, then they are barred without being able to come back for 5 years without any waiver possible, and for 10 years for having an order of deportation. So just using this app and leaving and abandoning your rights in immigration proceedings absolutely does not necessarily preserve a future opportunity for legal immigration. And in fact, if you lose your case in immigration court and you are deported, it's not easy, but there's a way to come back immediately for lots of people with a waiver of their deportation and maybe a waiver of their unlawful presence. It's possible to come back. So the idea that using this app to leave and abandon your removal proceedings The idea that that facilitates your future return is just not accurate. In fact, you could be in way worse shape by leaving during removal proceedings. And then fourth, it says possible flights home. You may be eligible for a subsidized flight if you cannot afford to leave. For days and days, we had no idea what this meant. But today there was an announcement from the Department of Homeland Security that one person was given a $1,000 subsidy to help with the flight home, and that many other people are going to be eligible for it. So that's probably what they're talking about. I haven't seen eligibility requirements or anything like that. Below that, it says consequences. So first is consequences: immediate deportation. You will be apprehended by DHS with no opportunity to get your affairs in order beforehand. Well, it's not clear what they're talking about here. Why? Because these people are appearing at immigration court, and they cannot be immediately deported if there's no order of removal. If there were an order of removal, they have appellate rights during which they could not be deported. And it just doesn't make sense. I guess it could make some sense if they had an order of removal. But for those who don't, which is going to be most of the people appearing, then this doesn't make any sense at all. And it's, again, a case of the flyer misleading people who are appearing at immigration court, unfortunately, many without a lawyer, into thinking that they're going to be immediately deported if they don't follow the advice to self-deport. In addition, we've heard disturbing reports of people actually being sent this flyer by email with a grant of their case. So a person wins asylum, meaning they are going to be able to stay in the United States forever because they won their case. They have legal status, and they're still getting this flyer saying depart immediately, or you're subject to being apprehended and deported. It says that they can be fined if they get a final of order removal and stay. That's accurate. They can be fined. It says that they would be subject to possible imprisonment. Very unclear what they're talking about here. It says if you fail to self-deport, you may be subject to jail time. Not clear if they're talking about some kind of a criminal charge that would be filed, or whether they're talking about being taken to immigration detention if they were to be arrested with a final order of removal. And finally, it says consequences barred from returning, indicating that if they don't self-deport, they would be prohibited from re-entering the United States through the legal immigration system. That's not exactly accurate. As I explained before, if somebody is deported, they may be eligible to apply for a waiver of that. It's actually called an I-212 application for advance permission to re-enter the country, and they may be eligible for that. And the fact of whether they self-deported with a final order of removal or whether they were deported by ICE, it actually doesn't impact whether they're eligible for that. So again, completely misleading. And what's really disturbing about this is that this is not coming even from ICE. This is actually being distributed by the Department of Justice. Now, this one that's on your screen actually has the logo in the bottom corner that says it's from Department of Homeland Security, but other ones have one that say Department of Justice. Why does that matter? Because the immigration court system, which is supposed to be a neutral arbiter, is distributing this misleading information to people, indicating that if they just leave, maybe they'd be better off. And immigration judges, by regulation, actually have the obligation to explain to people what benefits they might be able to apply for in immigration court. And if they are instead distributing this information and basically just saying, just give up, just leave, then it seems like it would be in violation of the regulations for immigration judges. And it really does drop all pretense of a neutral arbiter. We are distributing this information, just saying leave without explaining rights to apply for relief from removal, appellate rights about what people can do with this. So the point being, this is a really disturbing document that they've put together. And even more disturbing is that the immigration court system has agreed to distribute it on behalf of the Department of Homeland Security and ICE. One would hope that the immigration court system would take its role more seriously as a neutral arbiter in these proceedings, but for now it's not. And the important thing to take away is that nobody should take this advice or other advice from government agents, including the immigration court system, at face value without consulting with an immigration attorney about what it means for them and their particular circumstances. All right, that's it for today. We'll be back on Wednesday in Spanish, next Monday in English. I hope that you all are well.